technical issues here, but we'll see if we can get her straightened out. Hopefully that resolves it. Experiencing issues. 63% drop frames. It's lowering though.
That's good.
Because it's behind the scenes, like,
Yeah.
it keeps a rolling. I think it's the last 2 minutes is how it goes. So you can see as soon as we lowered it, it went from dropping 60-some% of the frames to it's dropping. We're up, we're running.
Okay, good. Now my Facebook's back too.
Yeah. Volume down.
All right. Oh, there she goes again. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of After School STEM. Today we're doing rabbit reading, and I am sitting in for Katura and Lee. We still have Mr. Orion. Let's make sure we get him in the shot because we all know he is the actual star of the show. All right. All right, so we had a couple of difficulties, but we are ready to rock. And today I'm going to read two books. The first one is called Henry's Awful Mistake by Robert Quackenbush. All right, look at that bunch of ants, a little foreshadowing. All right, Henry's Awful Mistake. The day Henry the Duck asked his friend Clara over for supper, he found an ant in the kitchen. Henry was worried that Clara would see the ant. She might think his house was not clean. The ant had to go. Henry reached for a can of ant spray, but he didn't want to spray near their food he was cooking. So he chased the ant with a frying pan. Henry ran around the kitchen, chasing after the ant, but the ant got away and hid behind the stove. Henry took the food he was cooking off the stove, then he shut off the flame and pulled the stove away from the wall. He saw the ant. Here, let's have you in front, buddy, so we can see you. Then he shut off the flame and pulled the stove away from the wall. He saw the ant. The ant saw Henry and ran into a small crack in the wall. Henry went and got a hammer. Henry pounded a big hole in the wall where the crack was, but he couldn't find the ant, so he kept pounding. That doesn't look good, right? The hole got bigger and bigger. At last, Henry saw the ant sitting on a pipe inside the wall. Henry aimed the hammer at the ant and missed. The blow of the hammer broke the pipe. Water came shooting out of the pipe. Henry couldn't stop it. Henry grabbed a towel. He tied it around the pipe, and the water stopped shooting out. But Henry hadn't stopped the water soon enough. It had sprayed all over the kitchen. Everything was soaking wet, except for Clara's supper. Thank goodness. Henry began mopping up the puddles of water. All at once, he slipped and banged against the kitchen table. Everything came crashing down. Henry was covered with pots and pans and food. The supper was ruined. There was nothing Henry could do now but to call Clara and tell her not to come. While Henry was talking on the telephone, the towel came loose from the pipe. Water came shooting out and flooded the whole house. Henry was carried right out the front door by the flood. There was no going back. Poor Henry's house was washed away by the flood. He saved what he could and moved into a new house. Oh my goodness, all of that for one little ant. When Henry was settled in his new house, he again asked Clara over for supper. Just as he went to the door to let Clara in, he saw an ant. So I'm going to make them say mistake twice. He looked the other way. Aha. So that was a wonderful story about a duck who ruined his whole house over one little ant. All right. This next book is about a bunny, and this is called Small Blue and the Deep Dark Night by John Davis. In the deepest, darkest hour of the night, Small Blue woke up. Small Blue thought of creepy things. She thought of sneaky things. She thought of gnarly, snarly teeth, boggling, goggling eyes, and a sniffling, snuffling nose. Big Brown, she cried. Big Brown opened the door. What's the matter, Small Blue? He asked. I saw goblins, Small Blue said. You saw goblins? Big Brown asked. I didn't exactly see them, but I'm sure they were there, said Small Blue. Gremlins and goblins with empty, rumbling bellies, licking their lips, waiting for me in the dark. But if it was dark, how do you know it wasn't a delightful doggies Saturday night unicycle convention? Big Brown asked. That doesn't sound very likely, said Small Blue. But isn't it just as likely as gremlins and goblins, he asked. No way, said Small Blue. Big Brown turned on the light. There were no gremlins or goblins. There were no delightful doggies either. Let's go have a cup of warm milk, Big Brown said. Small Blue and Big Brown stepped into the hall. I can't see anything, yelped Small Blue. I'm sure there are giant hairy spiders and flappy bats with shifty eyes lurking in the dark. Perhaps, said Big Brown, but couldn't it also be a smiley spaceman's zero-gravity birthday party? Well, maybe, said Small Blue. Big Brown turned on the light. There were no spiders or bats. There were no smiley spacemen either. Small Blue and Big Brown went into the kitchen. I bet there are warty witches and clackety skeletons, sniff, sniff, sniffing, waiting for me in the dark, whispered Small Blue. There could be, said Big Brown, but I can imagine the kitchen playing host to a retired pirate's annual sock knitting jamboree. Can't you? I guess so, said Small Blue. Big Brown turned on the light. There were no witches or skeletons. There were no retired pirates either. Small Blue helped Big Brown make 2 mugs of warm milk. Then Small Blue looked out into the deep, dark night. What do you see? Big Brown asked. Maybe the stars are running a relay race around the moon while the planets cheer them on, she said. I think that's exactly right, said Big Brown. They watched together until the last star was safely over the finish line. Small Blue yawned. Time to get back to bed, Big Brown said. But Small Blue was already asleep. Now, if Small Blue wakes up in the deepest, darkest hour of the night, she waves, just in case there are any delightful doggies, smiley spacemen, or retired pirates to wave back. Pretty nice one. All right, so since those are 2 kind of short ones, we'll do one more. And this one's called Peepers, and it's about autumn or fall. But one thing I like about this book is it's about people who live in a place with lots and lots of tourists, which is kind of how Bemidji is, especially in the summer. And so I like it because it's about two kids who live in a very scenic, touristy place and how they feel about living in a touristy, scenic place. All right. This is called Peepers by Eve Bunting. Lovely pictures in this one. All right. In fall, my dad opens up the shed where our little green bus sits waiting. Jim and I help him take off the blankets we piled on it last winter. The bus says, "Fred's Fall Color Tours" on the side. "Sparkle it up, boys," Dad orders. "The leaf peepers are coming." The peepers are what we call the tourists who come in the fall to see our bright colored trees. In October, Dad has peeper bookings for every day. Now that Jim and I are a year older, we have to go along to help on weekends. We'd argue, but what's the use? Weekends mean full buses, and Dad can't do it alone. Our bus crawls slow as a caterpillar along the quiet roads. Every time Dad stops, the peepers get out and take pictures of the bright red sugar maples and the shagbark hickory trees. "Oh," they say, "look, look, look how beautiful." Jim and I call that peeper talk. When they can't see me, I point to a spilled over trash can. "Oh, look," I whisper, "look how beautiful." Jim about busts, laughing. "Want a picture of the pond?" Dad asks the peepers. "Sure do, Fred," they chorus. Dad's name isn't Fred. He bought the bus from Fred Jenkins. The pond is ringed with speckled alder and red-feathered sumac. Aspens shower gold into the water. A beaver pops up, making a circle of ripples. "Oh," the peepers say, "look, look how beautiful." Jim and I roll our eyes. But we're looking too, because beavers don't actually pop up that often. Dad stops at the old Clements graveyard. It's small, and only Clementses are buried there. There's Mr. Clements and his wife Suzanne, who died in 1772. "Sweetly rest," the tombstone says. There are umpteen little Clements children, their places marked with slates, like crooked teeth. It would be sad, except it was so long ago. Beeches and quaking aspens bend above the gravestones. "Like blessings," a woman says. Jim and I play leapfrog over the children's markers. "Boys, boys," Dad warns. "Show some respect." He drives us down to the river. Leaves float like toy boats. They make a pile in the quiet water by the bridge. Jim and I call it Leaf Island, but you can't stand on it. We tried. It's almost Halloween. Mom has propped dried corn stalks against our porch. Pumpkins litter the fields around town, hundreds and thousands of them. "They're the color of the leaves," a peeper says, "or else the leaves are the color of the pumpkins." Straw scarecrows keep watch. One is playing a guitar. The peepers pose with him. One pretends to sing along, her arm around his shoulders. Her husband takes a picture. "What a ham," I whisper. The road sign reads Moose Crossing, but the moose are not obliging. "Promises, promises," the peepers say. Dad gives out copies of pictures we took one night. A moose stands in the road next to the sign. It's as if we'd arranged him there. He is humongous, and the flash from the camera puts fire in his eyes. "Moose only come down at dusk," Dad explains. "All you see in the headlights are 4 legs and a big black shadow." "Oh my," the peepers say. "Fancy that." Behind their backs, Jim moose prances and makes antlers with his fingers. The leaves are fading now. A few cling to the top branches, sigh and drop one by one. The flat roof of our porch is heavy with leaves, as it will be with snow. The reds and golds are all mixed together. A few leaves sail through the air like butterflies. They rest a while and paint their shapes on the sidewalks, so we'll remember them. It's getting really cold. One morning, the bus is stiff with frost. The shops that sell antiques and cherishables are closed. The tour phone has stopped ringing. Season's gone, Dad says. Peepers too. Promises, promises, we say happily. Time to put the bus back in the shed, Dad tells us, and eases it in. Jim and I check between the seats for lost peeper money while we're cleaning. We've lucked out a couple times. There's none today. We pile on the blankets. She sleeps here all winter like an old black bear, Dad says. Of course, the bus is the wrong color, but that's all right. Jim and I close the door and grin. We're free. One night, we put on our jackets and go into the backyard. The leaves all blew away in the last big wind. Jim and I figure there's a leaf planet somewhere that they fly to. How else could they disappear so fast? Our trees poke their branches black and spiky against the sky. Like brooms sweeping the clouds, Jim says. He sounds embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. The stars are crackling cold. The moon is as big as a pumpkin. I guess our winter sky is always like this, but I just never noticed. I'm seeing it now, the way the Peepers would see it. I point up, and I'm embarrassed too. But what the heck? Look, I say. Look how beautiful. The end. All right, I like that book because I think when you live somewhere beautiful, especially a place like this, it's easy to take it for granted. But when you come up here for the first time and everyone was like, oh, wow, it's good to remember. All right, so welcome back to Orion. He's kind of been missing out on our bunny readings lately. And as always, thank you for watching and supporting us. Thanks to Beltrami Electric for underwriting this latest series of after-school live stems. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube, all of those fun things. If you haven't already yet today, please do go vote for us in the Star Tribune Best of Minnesota contest. You can vote every day. It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. And as always, thank you so much for supporting us, and we'll see